Welcome everybody to It Tastes Different Gaming Appetizers. And tonight we're going to discuss Steam. Steam has made a change to their refund policy. The Steam refund policy has been pretty much the same forever. Basically, it's you can refund a game as long as you have not put in the full 2-hour play period. So if you play a game less than 2 hours, you could typically refund them from Steam. There are a few exploits and things that have come out over the years of people doing that, like some of the super short games. You could finish in an hour. People have played it and then refunded it, which, those people are dirtbags. And you used to be able to buy a game, and if they had early access, none of your playtime counted towards that. So Steam is not really changing their refund policy. It's still 2 hours, but they are closing up a few loopholes. And it kind of relates to that early access into the game and things like that. So, I'll kind of read you a little bit of excerpt of it. Basically, a new message posted to Steam, Valve said that games that are released ahead of their official launch dates will now qualify to begin this period of 2 hours that users have to experience a title before deciding if they want to return it. Over the past few years, many publishers have started to grant access to games 2 or 3 days ahead of their official launch as a perk tied to pre-orders of certain higher-end editions. Previously, games that were available in early access phase on Steam wouldn't count towards your 2-hour period. Basically, the 2-hour play period is for as soon as release date forward, right? So if you had early access, you could essentially play through the whole game if it was 3 days and you had that much time to burn, put in 24, 48 hours in 2 or 3 days before the official game release and then just refund it. So basically they're closing that kind of a loophole. So any game that has an early release or early access, and you start playing it, the 2 hours kicks in. So basically that's to keep people from abusing the platform's refund system, because in my opinion, if you do that, you're a dirtbag anyway. You're just taking money away from a developer that's trying to make games. And you're using a loophole, but Steam has closed that. So you can just go kick yourself in the nuts now for doing that anyway. You won't be able to do it again, but people will find a new exploit to get around stealing, essentially, because that's what you're doing. You enjoyed some content. You enjoyed it for free through a loophole, but now it's going away, which very rightfully so it should. So now, basically, when you purchase a title on Steam, prior to its release date, the 2-hour playtime limit for refunds will apply, except for beta testing. So if we're doing any type of beta testing, like play, if you pre-ordered it and you played some of the beta testing, they do a beta weekend, open or close beta weekend, those don't count towards the 2-hour time frame. Because technically the game's not complete, and it could be one thing and then they change it up on you, right? So that's pretty good. So basically, any game that is in early access or advanced access, as they call it, the playtime will count against the 2-hour refund limit as soon as you start playing. But if you pre-purchase a title which is not playable prior to the release date, you can request a refund at any time prior to the release of that title. And the standard 14-day, 2-hour refund period will apply starting on the game's release date. So basically, whichever comes first, right? 14 days or 2 hours, whichever one comes first. So if you try to refund a game 15 days after it came out, you probably will get denied. So I don't think that this is a bad move. I think it's a good move for developers. Keep people from abusing the system they've been abusing for a very long time. And, to some extent, game developers should be a little bit ashamed of themselves for coming out with a $100 digital game for 3 days of early access, but they do it. Nick, what do you think about this change? You think it's a good thing, a bad thing, all that good stuff?
No, I mean, it makes sense for them to do something like that, close out that loophole, because I'm sure there was probably a good portion of players taking advantage of something like that, especially with early access, right? Because it sounds like if a game was in early access, none of that game time applied. So some games can sit in early access for a long time, right? And then, could you get I'm assuming that they mean, beforehand, the 14-day period, and that's still the case now, would apply once the game is officially released, like the 1.0 version, right? And it's out of early access. So That's what they make it sound like when they say early access. So that's good, because and that would probably give a lot more. The thing about early access games is, you know, a lot of people get into early access or play early access games because they want to play those games early. But then you look at the forums or you look at the discussion boards and there's just people complaining about the issues. And it's like, well, yeah, it's an early access. Like, you're there to help them clean out the bugs and add features or take certain features away, things you would like to see, kind of helping the developer kind of position the game in the right direction you would like it to go in, and that the community would like it all to go in. And that's kind of like, that's what the whole point of early access is. So, some people, they kind of get into it to just play, right? Just to be able to play the game and not really, you know, think about these issues and stuff like that. So maybe something like this, the change like this might offer users more, being more wary of adopting into early access games. And, for those people that still want to, they can. But for those people that just do so to, like, bitch and moan or whatever, they might wait until official release, right? If they can't just decide that before it releases that they don't like it and they're going to refund it, right? But I mean, it's good because Steam's refund policy is very similar to Microsoft Xbox's refund policy as well, and a lot of other manufacturers, consoles, and stuff like that have kind of followed somewhat that same thing, not quite to that extent, but the same type of concept. And I think overall that refund policy of 2 hours, 14 days is good, right? That gives you enough time to know whether or not you're going to enjoy a game or not, right? And whether or not you want to continue playing it, or you want to refund because you're just not enjoying it. And that should be enough time for you to handle that. But yeah, I mean, it's not going to prevent those players from buying those games that are like an hour long and beating them and refunding them, unfortunately. There's really nothing they can. I mean, there's probably stuff they could do for that, but that doesn't really, take care of this issue or that issue with this. But if I'm going to buy a game, for me personally, if I'm going to buy a game, even if it's an hour long and I enjoyed it and I liked it and I played through it and I beat it, I'm not going to go and refund it, because more than likely that game wasn't that expensive to begin with, right? It was probably like a $5 game or something like that. So it's like, whatever, developer, you can have my $5. I beat your game. Cool. I got my hours out of it or whatever. Yeah, that's some scummy stuff if you're going to go out there and buy games and then refund them. So hopefully this will just abolish some of that from happening, right? I'm sure it'll still happen, but hopefully that will kind of cut down on that type of those types of things happening. So, but yeah, I think it's good overall.
Yeah, I think developers need to be able to flag their game as less than a 2-hour completion game.
Right, and then not be a part of it or something like that, right?
Well, they could be, but it would take a review, right? Somebody would have to review if somebody requests a refund, physical person had to put their eyes on it, or they could put in some type of, trophy-based system or something.
That's what I was saying. Like, if they completes the game, it unlocks you beat the game trophy, and then if they have that user has that trophy or that achievement or whatever they call them on Steam, then it's like, okay, well, this person can't have a refund because they clearly beat the game.
Yeah, the old Steam achievements or whatever. But yeah, I would even say go as far as like if they're within like right about to beat it, because you could technically run up to right where you're about ready to beat the game and be like, okay, I've seen enough, I'm done, I'm going to refund it.
I'll watch the ending on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. That way I can refund it. So I mean, you'd have to do something like, okay, this game takes average person an hour and a half to beat. If you put in over an hour and 15 minutes, then you're done. Or not something. They have to do something to prevent people from abusing something like that, because it's just downright, skeevy, to help these indie developers have to now their publisher has to refund something because somebody got to enjoy the game, but decided that they were, they didn't have to pay for it. So, I don't know. I think that there should be, maybe you're right. Maybe those games that are less than 2 hours that are like the $10, $20, $30 games or whatever, there is no opt-in, there is no refund. I mean, I remember back in the day when all you had was brick and mortar stores to buy PC games with, there was no refund. You couldn't bring the game back if it was open. You know, Steam is doing everybody a favor by allowing this, in my opinion, you to get a refund of a game you bought and, you don't like it essentially. But back before, I remember back when you had like, you know, Babbage's and all, you had the game stores and Walmart sold PC games and there was no return policy. The return policy was open box, no return on software because people were ripping it, putting on CDs and stuff like that. So maybe Steam needs to have an opt out. Publishers can opt out of this because especially in this day and age, I'm torn a little bit because I do like the refund policy and I've used it probably twice in the entire time because I got a game and it was just horrible and wasn't what was promised and it was broken. Actually, the very first game that wasn't the very first. The one game I can remember a game not too long ago that I did it with, and it was Fallout 76 when it first came out. Couldn't play, it was 76 or I think it was 76. It was a complete busted piece of crap, and I'm like, I'm not paying to play this because they had to fix all the crap going. I refunded it, never got it back because I'm like, I didn't realize there was no NPCs in the game. It came out and that everything was all player. It was essentially like a weird MMO with like 3 other people that could be on your map and things like that. So not what I was expecting. And so I could see how that will help. But in this day and age with like YouTube and everything, you go out there and be like, okay, I'm gonna watch a YouTube video real quick to see if I want to buy it, and then you're like, ooh, not what I was hoping for. But sometimes you can't get a feel for it, but put your hands on it yourself, right? So I can see where this is beneficial to have their refund policy. But there also needs to be a way for these smaller indie developers or smaller 2-hour less games to basically be removed from that refund policy so that they can say, I don't want to be in it because people can beat my game and then get a refund. Or Steam needs to actually physically track those games when somebody has a refund policy. When somebody wants a refund on a game that's like 2 hours or shorter or a really short game, they need to go in and look at it and be like, this person played like 95% of the game. We're not giving a refund. Somebody has to physically and then just say, hey, you played 95% of this game. You've got your money's worth out of this $10 game or something. So, but that's just me. Yep. I've only done it a couple of times. Have you ever refunded anything through Steam, Nick?
I don't know if I have or not. I'm not big on refunding stuff. Like, not unless it's like really totally, I usually just like if I buy it and I don't like it, well, it is what it is.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I pretty much keep it even if I don't like it. The only reason, like I said, the only couple times I've done it is because they were completely unplayable when I got them. Like Fallout 76 was really not playable. Game was crashing, texture issues. It was just a horrible launch, which is typical of anything Bethesda puts out these days. It's always a pain in the ass to play it when it first releases, and give them a month or two and they'll fix it, but still, I mean, heck, just look what they did with Fallout 4, a new patch, and they've completely trashed that game from what I read. I've not played it, but I read that they have broken Fallout 4 with this patch, and that whole London fan-made DLC got pushed back, or fan-made, expansion got pushed back because of this. And now this thing is just completely trashed the Fallout 4 game where it's buggy and broken again. And we have to wait for Bethesda to fix all that before those guys can come out with the reskin game, the London version of it, So
sounds like Bethesda.
Yeah, it does. It's Bethesda. Everybody knows Bethesda everything comes out broken. We'll get to it. We'll fix it. They will fix it, but it'll take them a little bit. It ain't tomorrow. It ain't this week. It probably ain't next week. It's probably a month from now, but it'll get fixed.
It's in the 20th anniversary edition.
Yeah, it's the Skyrim edition of Fallout 4.
That's when it'll be fixed.
Yep. When they figure out how to port Fallout 4 to VR and all that stuff, it'll be Fallout VR with the fixes we promised you years ago.
Yeah.
All right. So, like I said, I think it's a good thing. It keeps people, keeps some of those people who are dishonest from being dishonest a little bit. So, anything they could do to thwart people from taking money, wrongfully from the developer when the developer did nothing wrong, or in this case, mostly publishers, right? The publisher just published the game, they up front of the cost for the developer, and now the publisher is going to eat the refund, which means that the developer is not going to get any money until the publisher can recoup their money and then whatever contractual obligation they try to meet. So I don't know. I'm all for it. I think it's good. I don't use the Steam refund system very often. Like I said, I think I can do it twice in my entire gaming career. I don't have the library list that Nick has, but good on Steam, good on Valve for doing this, I think. And if you're upset about this, then you're probably one of those people abusing it.
So. You're part of the problem.
Part of the problem. They fixed your problem when they did. They fixed the problem that you were helping to create, That's what happens. You can't have anything nice because somebody comes in and ruins it. They crap all over it by doing this illegitimate crap and making everybody else suffer for it. Eventually, the refund policy is going to be so monstrous or nightmare that you're just not even going to do it, right? That's what's going to be happening. Valve's going to be like, okay, we're done with this automated refund thing. Everything has to be peer reviewed. They're going to be a month behind. They're sorry, you passed your 14 days by the time to get around to it. Time to get around to refund, and you're like, sorry, you missed your 14-day window. You can appeal. You can appeal it. Just submit this form in triplicate.
I mean, if you think about it, you're exactly right. I mean, because before the refund policy and a lot of these things, like you were talking about with retailers back in the day, it was almost impossible to get a refund. Now the refund policies that Steam and other manufacturers have, especially gaming, have is really good for the consumer. It's a really nice refund policy. So don't screw it up, or we will go back to the atrocious refund policies that we used to have back in the day, or no refund policy at all, right?
All right. Yep. So it's one of those things where it is a very lax and lenient refund policy. So yeah, if people are going to abuse it, it's going to go away completely, or it's going to go to a very atrocious system to use. If developers and publishers keep complaining about it, Valve will have no choice but in the end, because they've got competition now. Epic is competition. And so if game developers and publishers that are publishing on the platform can say, well, Epic will let me not allow refunds on my game, I'm going to go there. And Steam starts losing more market share to them, because Epic has been doing everything they can to try to steal a market share from Steam, like offering two free games a month, or it's 2 games a month for free, and they rotate them out every 2 weeks. One game drops off, a new one drops in, so it's they got to do something to stem developers from wanting to go to the Epic store rather than their storefront. Don't abuse it, you a-holes. All right, Nick, you got anything else on this Steam refund policy change?
No. It looks like, well, I don't know about early access, but Epic has the same refund policy as far as the 14-day, 2-hour thing.
Right, which I think is pretty standard. Like
I think Microsoft has the same thing as well.
Yeah. But a lot of the online retailers do. I think the only things that don't are like the brick and mortar stores. Like, I've not been in a GameStop in a long time and seen a PC game, but I think like GameStop allows like a 14-day unopened game. But I think if you open the game, there has to be something wrong with it.
Yeah.
Right. And they won't take it back if it's just been opened and there's nothing wrong with it. At least I don't remember their refund policy on games being any lax than that.
Yeah.
Because they always try to sell you that, get the warranty on your disc in case it breaks, Right. Every time I go in there, I'm like, no, I don't need that. If I step on it and break it, then it's my own fault. Or if I do something and break the disc, that's my own fault. But those things are pretty tough unless you break it in half or something, or whatever. If that's the case, then you just should have got the discless version of the console and played without any discs. I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
looks like Sony's is pretty similar, except for they don't have the 2-hour window, it seems. Theirs is only the 14-day. But once you pop it in and start playing, it's void at that point.
Yeah. Well, And that's what may end up happening across the board if people keep finding ways to abuse the games like that. So don't ruin it for everybody. Stop being jackholes and freaking asshats and ruin it for everybody else. But people out there will try to find a way to get over on anyone and everyone they can, and those are the kind of people that will do it. We have this. There's a problem out there with piracy and all types of things, but video games it's pretty prevalent. I even heard not too long ago. Now that there's some changes with the SEC that they were talking about blocking sites again, like going out and actually going to go block like Pirate Bay and things like that, which has legitimate and illegitimate uses, but it's a lot of illegitimate game uses. People go out and get games and things like that. But that's what will end up happening is that the more people pirate things and do things like that, the less freedoms we will have to get refunds and things like that. Because eventually the developers will all get together and be like, hey, I don't care what storefront you guys have. We have a union and nobody will put a game on your platform until you can guarantee us that you won't offer refunds without X, Y, and Z. It's going to be excruciatingly painful to get a refund if people keep abusing the system. But Valve's been the way they have been forever. The 2-hour thing has been around forever with Valve, and they haven't really fixed anything. And now they're starting to make some changes. I wonder if they got some developer and publisher pushback. And so this is what they're trying to do to appease them.
Yeah, maybe. So, don't be like Nintendo. They have no refund policy.
Yeah, that's Nintendo, though. They've always been that way. No refunds. Once you buy it, you know what you're getting.
Yep.
Reskin Mario. It's always reskin Mario, reskin Zelda. You know what you're getting. All right. Well, we've reached the end of this episode. And if you're still stuck around and you're not subscribed, why not? Help us out and hit that button. We could use all the help we could get to get those subscriber numbers up so we can keep BSing about video games like we do. Because obviously you stuck around long enough to hear our spiel. So go ahead and hit that subscription button, hit that bell to get notified for new videos that we put out quite frequently. And we hope you enjoyed this episode and hope to catch you in the next one.